Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we got a lot to talk about today with some big dev confirmations and discussions heading into Phase 2 with interesting updates on dual spec, some very big potential leaks for Phase 2, the very next raid and Season of Discovery, gear progression, community comments, and a lot more with Blizzard Entertainment. My name is Scott from The Comeback Is. This is your Season of Discovery news. Sit down, grab a cup of coffee. We got a lot to discuss today. Starting today's episode off with a very, very big announcement that I'm happy to make. The Comeback Kids actually secured an interview with the lead developers of Season of Discovery, and we would love some help from you all in our community. We already have a set of really solid interview questions for the time being, but we would really love to see if we can get any other ideas from you all. So below in the comment section, if you guys have any questions on Season of Discovery that you might want answered, that you would want directly toward the developers, start it with interview question, followed by your question or statements. That way we could sort of divvy it up a lot easier for Lance in the comment section. Once again, massive shout out to Agrind as well as Nora for giving us the time of day. Honestly, these two really lead by example for what it means to be a passionate developer for a game by always listening to the feedback, talking to the community. Absolutely massive W for the channel as well as Blizzard. And speaking of win for the channel, a quick word from our sponsor. Alright, before we get into it, I know I'm not the only one out there who's been constantly reached out by robocallers and scammers, always trying to bother me, to the point where I never even want to pick up a phone call to someone I don't know anymore. This leads me to the sponsor of today's video, Aura. Aura actually identifies these data brokers exposing all your information, and it will submit opt-out requests all on your behalf. The thing is these brokers are legally required to remove your information if you ask them to, but they make it a giant hassle and very difficult to do for the everyday person, and that's where Aura comes in to handle it. Not only does Aura get all this information off the web for you to keep you and your family safe, it does many other things to protect you and your family from online threats you can't even see. Everything is incredibly streamlined and easy to set up, so you don't have to have a bunch of apps on your phone and remember all these different passwords for things like antivirus, VPN, password management, identity theft, insurance, and the best part about it is that you actually get it all at one affordable price. Guys, do yourself a favor, let Aura do the hard work for you of keeping you safe online, so you can focus on other tasks with peace of mind. It's definitely better to be safe than sorry. You can either let people continue to exploit and profit off your private information, or you can go to the link in the description below to start your 2-week free trial today. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Getting into the thick of it early, we're going to be talking about a potential very big leak heading into Phase 2 for PvP. Once again, this is not absolutely confirmed, but it has been making the rounds and is going around the WoW community and spreading like wildfire. We actually found this over on Staysafe's channel, so if you want to check out the video, the link is down in the description below. The leak actually states that there is going to be a brand new reputation coming in Phase 2 with unique rewards, called the Atalai Tribe. Honorable kills inside of Stranglethorn covers you in blood, and a counter on your character increases by looting corpses inside of PvP that drop vials of blood. So when you kill enemy players, you acquire this vial of blood. You then hand in the blood that you loot for reputation and experience points, and all of these PvP kills count toward the Blood Moon event time ticker. Then, when this Blood Moon event triggers, PvE world bosses spawn and opposing factions battle over who gets the kills. Similar to Azure Ghost and Kazakh inside a regular classic, the spawn points will not be stagnant, and they'll also have various spawn locations that will be appointed at random to prevent mass camping in the fixed points. Then, when all the sub-bosses are dead, the end boss spawns at the Gurabashi Arena, and then when the boss is killed, the skirmish free-for-all is then re-enabled inside the arena, and it's most likely going to end in a bloodbath within the arena after that. After the boss is killed, the Blood Moon event ends, and the winning faction gets bonus reputation and a zone-wide buff, which grants 5% damage increase and 20% movement speed aura for 1 hour that persists on death. Now, obviously, there's a lot to unpack here, and how true this is, no one knows 100%. I mean, it's taken on what looks like an Android cell phone, for Christ's sake. I never really understood how somehow, someway, whenever something super top secret gets leaked, that person pulls out a Nokia cell phone from 2002 to capture proof of it. Of course, all this seems incredibly interesting, though, and from a PvP event standpoint, it seems like it would be a lot more fun to participate in rather than the Ashenvale PvP event. You know, Ashenvale was mostly PvE, but in this one, we got rotating boss spawn points, tons of open world PvP against the enemy faction to compete with, brand new reputations with exclusive rewards, a final boss battle at the Gurabashi Arena, then to cap it all off, a big free-for-all for everyone to just go kill themselves. I mean, that sounds like a hell of a time if you'd ask me. If this is true, this would be an amazing thing for Season of Discovery and a great reputation grind to get some new loot as well. I am curious, however, to see what kind of loot they add to this new reputation. In my opinion, I would really love to see some PvP tier set bonuses, like maybe having extra stamina or even bonus spell effects that grant you bonus stamina or effects for your runes, or some sort of defensive capabilities against players. Just something new and unique that could fit classic World of Warcraft without it being, you know, over the top. Overall, though, this is all really, really exciting stuff heading into Phase 2. Once again, not 100%, just a potential leak here. More info very soon on that. Seeing as new players get incredibly restless over no official updates for Phase 2, the devs are trying to hold them off as much as possible. Agrind actually stated nearly every day over on Twitter that more stuff is coming soon and responding to a bunch of people, and even Nora Valletta posting a very interesting tidbit over on Twitter as well, stating that they're very excited to share more about Phase 2 soon, including a sneak peek of the new Nomergan raid, the Stranglethorn Vale PvP event, the Battleground matchmaking updates, and more. Something that really caught my eye here from Nora was that she stated Battleground matchmaking, which could definitely lead people to believe that they're going to have some sort of system in place next phase to help counteract people getting stomped by a bunch of pre-mades. Now, I'm not going to go out here and say this is solo queue or pre-made queue, because we did get some pushback previously on that from Agrind a few weeks ago, and I don't want to give out false information, but it does look like they are listening to the community and feedback when it comes to Battlegrounds, and they might have something interesting in place for Phase 2 to sort of make everything feel a lot better to play. What do you guys think? Battleground matchmaking? Let me know your opinions on that in the comments section below. Personally, I would love for there to be an option to queue up solo, or even potentially them bringing out a pre-made queue option, but nevertheless, it looks like we're going to find out in the next week or so. Moving on now to some more hard data and in-game updates, we once again got a recent update on the final raid logs for Black Fathom Deeps for Phase 1. Another day goes by, another day that Warrior and Rogue DPS seems to just pull farther away from everybody else. Not only that, all Hunter nerfs are finally starting to settle in, and the classes really drop significantly in both melee and range aspects in terms of DPS. I mean, Marksmanship Hunter previously being number 1, now shooting down to the 4th ranked spot, and now Feral Druid DPS actually being higher than them, and even Melee Hunter staying below Retribution Paladin and Fire Mage in terms of damage as well. In our previous video, we actually talked about hybrid tax and how I think personally that classes with a lot more utility than other classes shouldn't really be at the top of the DPS meters because they bring a lot more to the group. For example, what is now the value of bringing other classes such as the Hunter and Rogue, which I know Rogue is in a very generous spot being at the top of the DPS charts, and I also know that Rogue got a tank spec, so they are technically a hybrid class, but that doesn't mean they can bring out that tank spec in the middle of combat. The point I'm trying to make here is that it definitely feels off-putting that Feral DPS in particular is one of the top DPS classes this phase, as well as a class that brings the most utility in the game by bringing Wind Fury and Rebirth, revive allies in combat. And before you go ahead and say that class viability doesn't matter in Classic and it's not a big deal, everything's trivial, I will agree with you on that because all this content is very straightforward and you definitely don't need to min-max for it. It's really meant for just fun. But it definitely matters when you're trying to find a pug group and you can't get in because you're the average Joe Shadow Priest DPS and they just don't want to invite you. I mean, my priority number 1 is going to be grabbing a Feral Druid and as many Rogues and Hunters as I could possibly bring because those classes deal a lot of damage and they're very straightforward to play. I just think that you need to ask yourself the honest question, ladies and gentlemen. Let's say you're inviting subpar players to join your raid group. Would you invite a Frost Mage, Elemental Shaman, or maybe even Shadow Priest over a Feral Druid? Would you invite them over a Rogue? Would you invite them over a Hunter? The point I'm trying to make is that it's impossible to balance all these classes in terms of DPS, and if certain classes in particular don't bring a lot of DPS, then they should be elevated in terms of group utility or group composition to help out their case. This is one of the reasons why Shaman had Wind Fury over Druid, Shadow Priest brought mana to the party, Balanced Druid got Spell Hit. I think all this will get a lot better come Phase 2 with the finishing of talent trees, but hopefully things get a little bit more evened out in terms of DPS and utility. Speaking of DPS, the community has also brought up the fact that they would love target dummies, and even some of you reached out to Agrind over on Twitter with a user stating, "Can we please get target dummies in one of the major cities? With all the runes and aspects we have, we want to test specs and runes outside of raids." Agrind actually replied stating, "It's just unlikely. We aren't looking to hasten solving of the game each phase because we were still seeing new tech and builds pop up at even level 25 weeks into the phase, and we think that's a good thing. Okay, now if I'm being honest here, I think he has some really good takes here on trying to stick to their guns on keeping classic and old school style MMO where you have to grind out and test builds all on your own rather than just sit inside a capital city and find out the best way to deal DPS. I would personally still love target dummies to be implemented because I'm just that type of player that really likes to take my damage to the next level and practice and learn in my own time, but I could definitely see his points that he made on this one. So if you were hoping that target dummies were coming, sadly, it's just not going to be the case. Speaking of big arrivals, we also got some interesting speculations over on Twitter as well, with a user asking if there is anything planned to help Shadow Priest mana problems in Phase 2. Agron actually once again came to the rescue to respond, stating getting more levels, more gear, and more runes is how you're going to fix that. Everyone has mana issues at level 25, and that's something that was expected. Something that he did state here that's really interesting is that there could be more runes coming to help fix that. He said that specifically, so potentially Shadow Priest could be getting something like maybe Vampiric Touch, or maybe even Shadow Fiend to help out with mana. I mean, could you imagine a Shadow Priest that has a Shadow Fiend summoned as well as Homunculi just beating the crap out of you, and then they're just running away applying damage over time effects? I don't know. I think that'd be pretty hilarious, and it would turn Shadow Priest almost into like a mini pet class, which would be really interesting to see as well. So if you're a Shadow Priest, hang in there. More changes could be coming very soon when it comes to mana. Lastly, for the Season of Discovery news, Blizzard actually took to the forums to clear up some information heading into Phase 2. Usually, sweaty World of Warcraft players look for any way possible that they can get a leg up over the competition. And that usually means going to incredible lengths such as prepping 20 quests to complete to instantly turn in right when the phase launches, and even storing all your Warsong Gulch honor marks to turn in for a nice chunk of XP as well. Well, developers did officially clarify the other day that these items are going to be prevented from being restorable, and that during maintenance on February 6th, they will purge any that is already inside of mailboxes. They strongly suggest that any players who have any Warsong Gulch marks in their mailbox to retrieve them and use them before the end of Phase 1, or they will be lost. So another interesting little tidbit for Phase 2 as well when it comes to PvP and trying to get a leg up over the competition in terms of XP. Now, for the final bit of official news today, we were actually really surprised and saddened this morning to find out that over 1,900 Blizzard employees are actually being laid off from Microsoft Gaming, which is including Mike Ybarra, the Blizzard president, as well as Alan Adham, one of the original co-founders of Blizzard Entertainment back in the day. Now, Phil Spencer, the Microsoft CEO, actually posted in his statement via The Verge, stating, as we move forward in 2024, the leadership of Microsoft Gaming and Activision Blizzard is committed to aligning on a strategy and an execution plan with cost structure that will support the whole of our growing business. We made the painful decision to reduce the size of our gaming workforce, and the people who are directly impacted by these reductions have all played important parts in the success of Activision Blizzard, ZeniMax, and the Xbox teams, and they should be proud of everything they've accomplished. Looking ahead, we will continue to invest in areas that will grow our business and support our strategy of bringing more games to players around the world. Honestly, it is always a very, very tragic thing and sad thing to hear that people are getting laid off, especially passionate developers for video games, especially, you know, all these Blizzard games, and many of the people who have been there for so many years and have been part of so many teams and dedicated crews. It's a very tough situation and thing to go through. And it's always a very sad thing parting ways from something that has always felt like your everyday life for so long. Once again, to clarify, this then left the Blizzard president Mike Ybarra to make an announcement stating that he was going to be stepping down. A true industry veteran who spent over 20 years giving all those roles everything he's got, he also took to Twitter to give a really heartfelt message thanking everyone and how he's ready to give all this energy and support to focus on the affected individuals due to these massive layoffs. This also then led to the survival game that was up and coming for Blizzard Entertainment to actually just be flat out canceled. They actually announced it as well yesterday and revealed that little information about the game was ever released to the public. The Microsoft Game Content and Studios president stated that they will be shifting some of the people working on it to one of the several promising new projects Blizzard now has to offer in the early stages of development. Once again, a really sad day for Blizzard as we are losing our president, as well as so many dedicated employees that go into work every single day to give it everything they've got with their teams. A lot of friends, family, partners. They were sadly affected, and our thoughts and prayers go out to them. Hopefully, things get better for you all. Moving on now to the community part of our video, where we take your opinions and comments from below in our comment section, shout them out, and discuss them. So if you have something creative, constructive, or even innovative towards Season of Discovery, let us hear about it in the comments section below so we could show it off to everybody. Starting off, we have Michael Miller stating, I would love to see some more class-specific stuff, gear, quest lines, and maybe even some sort of area in each capital city, kind of like the class hall in Legion, but not that. Just to emphasize the class fantasy. By the way, just to emphasize, there are some things I didn't like about Legion, specifically the whole everyone gets a super epic weapon deal, but my absolute favorite thing that they ever added in WoW were those class-specific order halls. I cannot express anymore how much I love doing my own quest lines and having my own stories, as well as, like, my companions. I mean, it made me feel so proud to play a Draenei Shaman back in the day. I thought that was so cool. We're talking deep, deep stories for each spec inside of your class and how you acquire your artifact weapon, as well as the class story all on its own. I love that sort of thing, and I would be all for it, but in actuality, I just don't see it coming back to World of Warcraft anytime soon, unless it's in retail. I do think, however, that there are going to be some more class-specific gear or quest lines coming inside of Season of Discovery, with the whole rune acquisition system. I mean, Retribution Paladin as well as Demonology Warlocks had some really, really awesome quest lines inside of Phase 1 that were super deep and rich in lore, so let's hope we see some more of that for other classes in Phase 2. Hopefully for my Shaman class out there. We also got a quick comment from Outtrigger Underground stating, barbershop when? And I'm gonna be honest, man, I feel like Season of Discovery would fit really well with having a barbershop being implemented. I mean, I always love having those extra hairstyles from Wrath of the Lich King and being able to change it all on the go. So I'm all for a barbershop getting inside of the game. I know it starts to get a little bit sticky when I start requesting things like guild banks or instant mail between characters. But I do think for a pure fun aspect and standpoint, barbershop doesn't really cause any problems. Anyways, we also got another comment from Savage Potatoes stating, there definitely needs to be more PvP gear. A couple of items doesn't cut the mustard. Imagine being able to deck your tune out in badass PvP gear sets of different variations, and dual spec needs to be a thing as well. And oh man, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot tell you enough how much I would love PvP sets to be within each phase of Season of Discovery. Not only that, I think it would be really awesome to just keep for, like, memorabilia and, like, memory purposes. It would also make me have an insane amount of class pride, having my own tier set that looks like, that it really feels like my own in open world PvP. On top of that, I do agree that dual spec needs to be a thing, because come level 40, class specs truly become very different, and that's where the game really begins in terms of, like, rotations and PvP combat. So why not allow us to have the flexibility of playing with all the runes that they advertise and implement into the game whenever we'd like. Last up, we got a couple funny comments that I really couldn't help but just laugh out loud about, with TP5181 stating, bro, you're such a good talker. Hell, I can't stop saying to my children, sit down, grab a cup of coffee. We got a lot to discuss, because it's such an epic opener. I couldn't help but just crack up about this, man. Picturing all you guys making your kids like waffles or something before school, telling them to sit down, grab a cup of coffee. I thought that was freaking awesome. And then we also got Blasphemy here stating Season of Warriors, which I thought was hilarious as well. I mean, it seems that Warriors, man, once again are just kicking ass, and they're just picking up right where they left off in World of Warcraft Classic. Not only are they the top DPS class, they're also making a case for one of the best tanking classes as well when it comes to bosses, because they deal so much single target damage with their Devastate one-button rotation. It is just, it's pumping right now, man. They're also going to get Mortal Strike next phase, and even more runes, so this trend is definitely going to stick around, and Warriors are going to be a problem heading into Phase 2. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, leave a comment below for me to respond to it live here on these news videos to have a little bit of discussion point and talk about it. I would love to see your opinions on some of the topics in these videos. If you want your voice to be heard, let me know about it in the comment section below. If you guys enjoyed the video, please be sure to like and subscribe to get absolutely flooded with Season of Discovery content. We got a lot more coming inside of Phase 2. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. It is an absolute pleasure to be making content for you all. Until the very end, my name is Sky from the Comeback Kids. We'll see you all in the next one. Peace.